What has happened though is that, and we've done very little about that. At one level, and I'd like to think that most of us as Vice-Chancellors, we would never set out a student out of university by reason of inability to pay. And most Vice-Chancellors tell me that they would do everything to try to help the student who is performing well but has challenges with payment. Many universities have got funds set aside to assist students who are actually in need. And so in a real sense, for many universities, the issues, while they were understandable and understood, they came as a surprise as well. Because in part, they recognize, and indeed many universities have been saying to the government for a long time, actually there is a problem about the funding formula, the funding mechanism for our universities in our country. There is a problem about the prioritization of higher education that takes place in our country. And it's something that needed to be looked at. I have to say that that system too has improved, but not improved enough to take the pressure off from the need for universities year by year to continue to increase the fees. But with that has meant not only the government, by the way, is contributing less and less to the cost of the and funding system for the university, private sector as well is contributing less and less to higher education, whereas previously many of the universities could to rely on the third stream income to a large degree. But many of those private sector also contribute less and less to some universities, especially historically black universities, are getting less and less of a third stream income. And the historically white universities continue to get more of a third stream income. So what we really do find in reality in our country is the continuation of a pattern of discrimination and inequality well into the university system itself. So beginning then with Rhodes Must Fall, you all know I was invited as president of convocation at UCT. I was invited by the Vice Chancellor to be a kind of neutral chair of a student assembly. And shock to my system, the first thing that happened, the students in a very untidy way told me in no uncertain ways that they don't want me to be there. Because they didn't trust me. That was a wake-up call to try to recognize that we're onto something very different here. I see Lionel is laughing. Lionel and I were students in the 1970s together. We were rebels in our own sort of way, and it is, and it's amazing actually. You know, you kind of assume that you've got a record that students would acknowledge, but actually they don't care. So I had to actually recognize that. The amazing thing though about both Rhodes Must Fall, #Rhodes Must Fall and Fees Must Fall, is the extent to which, the manner in which student action such as it is organized or emerges in an organic form. In the first place, by and large, the organized and properly constituted student leadership, by and large, has been cast aside. The organized student leadership, SRCs, and any other organized student leadership are not where university management looks to for the voice of the student. The activist students themselves and neither are they the voice consistently of the students at the time when action must take place. So they too are always wondering exactly who do they represent. So the first question that comes up naturally in an environment like this, who actually is the voice of the student? And that's where my idea of revolt comes in. Because actually the voice of the student is not formalized in the way in which you and I get to know, where we sit down around the table, negotiate, understand. There's a sort of subversive voice of the student that is seen and identified in their actions rather than in their ability to articulate and advance a particular cause. And that is part of the first difficulty that management has been having throughout 2015-2016. And most of the elected student leaders have had to kind of follow what the trend that actually happens. But actually they themselves recognize that they don't have an authoritative voice that the students actually follow. And that's new from the time when I was a student leader. As a student leader, I was a recognized student leader. Student, actually, you stood up and student kept quiet. and in general, you know, there was a sense of recognition of authority and part of the whole with which students were going. The second challenge that the vice chancellors in particular had to contend with is to really find clarity about what is actually the demand, what is actually sought that could lead to the resolution of the problem. In other words, what is the problem? At one level, in the hashtag Rhodes Must Fall, it was the removal of a statue of Cecil John Rhodes on campus. As it happens, the Vice Chancellor of UCT, at his inauguration speech, actually was the first person at UCT to say that walking through the campus of UCT, I take the view that it is inappropriate to have the statue of Cecil John Rhodes. That actually was 3 years before. And Max Price says in the intervening period, not one person, no resolution, not from the students, not from the staff, not from Senate, not from anybody, ever came up with a resolution for the removal of the statue of Cecil John Rhodes. And when it did come, it didn't come from any body of students. It came from a lone ranger of a student who seemed to have ignited something that clearly many of the students felt but did not articulate. And that is how actually the movement actually grew. So that's the first thing. The clearer articulation of the cause of what it's about. The second one that arises from it is the fact that such as it is, the demands such as they are, tend to be shifting and changing all the time. And in many respects, this raises the question of trust. Who do you deal with? Two, what are you dealing about in order to find a resolution to the conflict? Achille Mbembe expresses that very, very clearly to say that if indeed you are in some form of an action, the purpose of an action is to arrive at certain demands that need to be resolved. If those demands are not well articulated, if the means of resolving those demands is not is not available at all, actually there is a situation that is incapable of resolution.